In a fit of rage, he tore his pregnant wife's dress in front of the mistress, trying to destroy her completely. But days later, she reappeared at a fashion show and made headlines across the country. The city of Chicago sprawled beneath him like a circuit board of light and shadow, each glittering window a pixel in the grand digital canvas. Thackeray Novak, Thack to everyone who mattered, stood alone at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, swirling 18-year-old scotch in a crystal tumbler. 52 floors below, Lake Michigan stretched into darkness, its surface rippled by a May wind. He took a slow sip, savoring the burn. "Beautiful view for a beautiful life," he murmured to his reflection, his Eastern European accent still detectable even after 25 years in America. The face looking back at him was handsome in a severe way, angular jawline, piercing eyes, and salt-and-pepper hair, cropped military short. At 42, he wore his age like another well-tailored suit. The Chicago Tribune business section had called him ruthlessly innovative just last week. The latest Novak Industries quantum encryption software had doubled company stock overnight. Not bad for a kid who'd arrived in this country with $8 and a backpack full of outdated computer parts. His phone vibrated. Kenzie again. He silenced it without looking. "Thack, can you come here a moment?" Vivian's voice floated from their bedroom. He found his wife seated at her design table, surrounded by fabric swatches and sketches. At 34, Vivian Novak possessed a quiet radiance that had only intensified with pregnancy. 6 months along, her belly formed a perfect dome beneath her silk loungewear. Dark curls cascaded over her shoulders as she bent over her work, copper-toned skin glowing under the specialized lighting. "What do you think?" She held up a sketch of her latest design. "The pleating here creates an optical illusion. The eye follows this line up, then curves here with the body's natural shape." Thack moved behind her, placing his hands on her shoulders. "It's incredible. Like everything you create." She reached up to touch his hand. "Coming from Mr. Tech Genius, that means something." He smiled, but his eyes drifted to his phone as another message arrived. "Busy night?" Vivian asked, noticing. "Just last-minute details for tomorrow's gala. Everyone's nervous about their presentations." He kissed the top of her head. "You should rest. Big day tomorrow." "I'm pregnant, not invalid," she laughed, but her eyes betrayed fatigue. "Besides, this emerald dress is my statement piece. I've put everything into it." "The dress that will launch Vivian Novak as a household name," he said, reciting the phrase she'd been using for weeks. "Mock all you want, but this design could change everything for me." She ran her fingers over the actual fabric, a silk in the deepest emerald that caught light like liquid. "Everyone thinks I'll fade away after the baby comes. This is my proof that motherhood and career aren't mutually exclusive." Thack's phone buzzed again, 3 times in rapid succession. "Go," Vivian said. "Handle your empire. I need to finish these seams anyway." He retreated to his home office, closing the door before checking his messages. "Kenzie, need to see you tonight." "Kenzie, can't wait until tomorrow, it's important." "Kenzie, I'm downstairs. Let me up or come down." "Shit," he muttered, dialing her number immediately. "You can't just show up here," he hissed when she answered. "Vivian is working on her precious dress, I know." Kenzie's voice was sharp. "I need 10 minutes, Thack. That's all." "Not tonight. Then I'll come up there myself. I'll tell security it's a work emergency." Thack pinched the bridge of his nose. "Fine, there's a coffee shop 2 blocks west. 10 minutes. He grabbed his suit jacket and returned to Vivian's workspace. "Marketing crisis. Some idiot uploaded the wrong promotional materials for tomorrow. I need to run down and sort it out." Vivian didn't look up from her stitching. "Everything okay?" "Just tedious. Don't wait up." She nodded, focus unwavering from the emerald fabric flowing through her fingers. Kenzie was already waiting when he arrived, her posture rigid at a corner table. At 29, she carried herself with the assurance of someone 10 years her senior. Her dark blonde hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, highlighting sharp cheekbones and calculating blue eyes. "This better be important," Thack said, sliding into the seat opposite her without removing his jacket. "Define important," Kenzie replied coolly. "Is my emotional well-being important? Or just your precious company image?" "Kenzie, please, it's late, and I'm done being your secret," she cut in. 6 months of sneaking around hotel rooms, meeting in your office after hours. "I deserve more." Thack leaned forward, voice low. "We discussed this. After the baby comes, that's what you said 3 months ago. And 3 months before that, her manicured nail tapped against the table. Meanwhile, I have to stand by watching you play devoted husband at every company function. It's complicated. It's only complicated because you make it complicated, she snapped. You don't love her anymore. You've said it yourself. Thak glanced around nervously. Lower your voice. Tomorrow night at the gala, I want you to come with me. Not her. He stared, momentarily speechless. You can't be serious. Completely serious. Her eyes were flint. I've already picked out my dress. Red, your favorite. Vivian has been working on her dress for weeks. This gala means everything to her career. And what about my career? How much longer do I have to pretend I'm just your talented marketing director? Do you know what people whisper? That I slept my way to the top. Which isn't true. You earned your position. Kenzie's laugh was brittle. Yes, before I ever slept with you, but now every accomplishment is tainted. 1 more month, he pleaded. After the baby, we'll tell her together. I'll make sure your reputation at the company is protected. No, Kenzie's face hardened. Tomorrow night, you either come with me, or I'll make sure everyone at that gala knows exactly what we've been doing in your office after hours. You're threatening me? His accent thickened with anger. I'm giving you a choice. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Her or me. Decide by tomorrow. After she left, Thak remained seated, staring at nothing. 6 months ago, what had started as innocent flirtation had escalated quickly. Kenzie's ambition and intensity had been intoxicating, so different from Vivian's measured calm. When Vivian announced her pregnancy, the timing couldn't have been worse. He'd already begun falling for Kenzie. Now he was trapped between 2 lives, the divide growing daily. When he returned to the penthouse an hour later, the lights in Vivian's workspace were still on. He found her hand sewing delicate beadwork along the neckline of the emerald dress. You should be sleeping, he said from the doorway. Almost done. She didn't look up from her work. Did you fix your crisis? Not exactly. He approached slowly. Vivian, about tomorrow night. She tied off a thread and snipped it cleanly. I don't think we should go to the gala. Her hands froze mid-motion. What? It's going to be stressful, crowded, not good for you in your condition. She turned to face him fully. My condition? I'm pregnant, Thak, not ill. And this gala is crucial for my brand. There will be other events. Not like this one. Everyone who matters in Chicago fashion will be there. Her eyes narrowed. What's really going on? Nothing. The lie tasted sour. I'm thinking of you and the baby. No. She stood, the emerald fabric cascading around her workspace. You've been distant for months, distracted, working late, and now suddenly you want to skip the most important night of my career. She approached him, searching his face. Tell me the truth. Thak's phone buzzed in his pocket. Vivian's eyes dropped to it, then back to his face. Your phone has been buzzing all night. It's work, he said automatically. At midnight? Show me. That's ridiculous. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Is it Kenzie? The name hung in the air between them like a grenade with its pin removed. Thak felt blood drain from his face. What are you talking about? I'm not stupid, Thak. Her voice trembled slightly. The late meetings, the business trips that didn't match your calendar, the way she looks at you, and worse, the way you look at her. You're being paranoid. Am I? Her eyes glistened. Then show me your phone. His phone buzzed again as if on cue, 3 messages in rapid succession. With surprising quickness, Vivian snatched the phone from his pocket. Her hands shook as she read the messages displayed on the screen. You need to decide tonight. I can't live like this anymore. I'll be wearing red tomorrow. Make sure you're with me, not her. I love you. I know you love me too. End it with her. Vivian looked up, her face a mask of pain and betrayal. The phone slipped from her fingers to the floor between them. How long? She whispered. Thak said nothing, his silence damning. How long? Each word was ice. Does it matter? It matters to me. She grabbed a pair of scissors from her workstation, brandishing them like a weapon, though whether toward him or herself wasn't immediately clear. Did it start before or after you knew about the baby? His hesitation told her everything. My God, she whispered. You've been sleeping with her our entire pregnancy. Vivian, please what? Please forgive you, please understand. She backed away from him. All those nights I waited up. All those times I defended you to my friends when they said you were working too much. I never meant to hurt you. Liar, the word exploded from her. You've been planning this all along, haven't you? Wait until I have the baby, then leave me for her. It's complicated. No, it's actually very simple. She turned toward the emerald dress on the mannequin, her masterpiece, her statement to the world. You're a coward. He stepped toward her. Give me the scissors, Vivian. In one swift motion, she drove the scissors into the dress, dragging them down the front. The beautiful fabric ripped with a sound like a scream. What are you doing? Thack lunged for her. If you're going to destroy me, I might as well help you finish the job. She slashed again, cutting across the beadwork she'd spent weeks perfecting. Stop it! He grabbed her wrist, trying to take the scissors. They struggled, a macabre dance around the mutilated dress. The scissors clattered to the floor. Vivian's eyes blazed with a fury he'd never seen. Get out, she said, voice deadly calm. This is my home. Get out. She picked up the scissors again. Or so help me God, I don't know what I'll do next. Thack backed toward the door. We need to talk about this rationally after you've calmed down. Rationally? She laughed, a hollow sound. You want rational? Here's rational. I'm 6 months pregnant with your child, and you're sleeping with your 29-year-old marketing director. You were planning to leave me after I gave birth. You tried to stop me from attending the gala so you could go with her instead. Her voice broke. Tell me what part of that I'm misunderstanding. His phone buzzed again on the floor where it had fallen. They both looked at it, then at each other. Answer it, Vivian said. Tell her you've made your choice. In the silence that followed, the only sound was Vivian's ragged breathing and the soft rustle of the ruined emerald fabric as it slipped from the mannequin to the floor, a puddle of destroyed dreams and broken promises. Thack stood frozen, unable to meet Vivian's gaze. The silence stretched between them like a chasm, growing wider with each passing second. Vivian's breathing was the only sound in the room, punctuated by the soft patter of beads falling from her destroyed dress. He finally bent to retrieve his phone. I should go. That's it? That's all you have to say? Vivian's voice was dangerously quiet. 5 years of marriage and you just go? You're hysterical right now. We can't have a reasonable conversation. Hysterical? The word felt like acid on her tongue. Is that what you call it when someone discovers their entire life is a lie? Thack's phone lit up again. This time he answered. Not now, he said tersely. Vivian could hear Kenzie's voice on the other end, though not her words. The sound of the other woman made something snap inside her. Tell her to come here, Vivian demanded loudly. Thack covered the phone. Don't be ridiculous. I want to see her. I want to look your mistress in the eye. Vivian stepped closer. Or are you afraid to have both your women in the same room? His jaw tightened. This isn't productive. Productive? She laughed bitterly. Like your productive late nights at the office? He returned to the call. I'll call you back, he told Kenzie, but Vivian could hear the woman's agitated response. No, actually, why don't you come over? Vivian shouted toward the phone. Let's all have a nice chat about the future, about my baby and your boyfriend. Thack ended the call abruptly. This is exactly why I didn't tell you. You're being irrational. Oh, I'm sorry, my reaction to discovering my husband's infidelity isn't convenient for you. She gestured to her pregnant belly. I'll try to betray you more respectfully when it's my turn. I never meant for any of this to happen. Bullshit! Vivian's eyes narrowed. You made choices. Every secret meeting, every lie about working late, every hotel room, those were choices. Thack ran a hand over his face. Yes, I made choices. I fell in love with someone else. It happens. The casual cruelty of his words hit Vivian like a physical blow. It happens, like catching a cold, like a flat tire? I didn't plan it. But you didn't stop it either. Vivian moved to the window, placing one hand on the cool glass. 52 floors below, the city continued its nighttime rhythm, oblivious to her collapsing world. When did it start? Exactly. Thack hesitated. Does it matter? It matters to me, he sighed. Last October. The timeline clicked into place. When I told you I was pregnant, it wasn't because of that. 9 months, she whispered, calculating. 9 months of lying to my face every day. The penthouse intercom buzzed, startling them both. Thack checked the security monitor. Jesus Christ, she actually came, he muttered. Let her up, Vivian said. This is a terrible idea. Let her up. Each word was steel. Something in her voice made him comply. Minutes later, the elevator doors opened directly into their penthouse foyer, and Kenzie Reed stepped out. She wore a tailored black coat over what appeared to be evening attire, her blonde hair now loose around her shoulders. She faltered briefly upon seeing Vivian. "I thought you'd be asleep," she said, her confidence momentarily fractured. "Clearly," Vivian replied. "Welcome to my home. I'd offer you a drink, but you seem quite comfortable helping yourself to things that belong to me." Kenzie's eyes darted to Thak. "You told her." "She found out," he corrected. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. The three of them formed a triangle of tension. Vivian by the window, Thak near the doorway, Kenzie hesitating just inside. "So," Vivian broke the silence, "you're sleeping with my husband." Kenzie straightened, composing herself. "It's more than that. We're in love." "Love," Vivian repeated, the word hollow in her mouth. "And does love justify destroying a family? A marriage?" "Your marriage was already over," Kenzie said with surprising conviction. "He hasn't been happy for a long time." "Is that what he told you?" Vivian turned to Thak. "That we were practically separated, that I was some shrew making your life miserable." "I never said that," Thak interjected. "You didn't have to say it explicitly." Kenzie stepped further into the apartment. "It was obvious from how you talked about home, how you never wanted to leave the office. And you were right there, weren't you? Convenient, available, not pregnant and hormonal." "This isn't about your pregnancy," Kenzie insisted. "No? The timing seems remarkably coincidental." Vivian gestured to her workspace where the ruined emerald dress lay. "Come see what your love affair has accomplished tonight." Kenzie followed her gaze, taking in the destroyed fabric. "You did that?" "We both did," Vivian said. "A collaborative effort, like your affair." Thak moved between them. "This isn't helping anything." "What would help, Thak?" Vivian asked. "Should I quietly pack my things? Disappear so you two can play house in the penthouse I decorated? Should I apologize for being an inconvenience to your new relationship?" "Nobody's asking you to disappear," he said. "We can handle this like adults." "Adults?" Vivian laughed, the sound brittle. "Adults don't sneak around for 9 months. Adults don't make promises they can't keep. Adults don't betray the people who love them." Kenzie stepped forward. "I never meant to hurt you. Yet here we are." Vivian faced her directly. "Tell me, when you were strategizing with him about tomorrow's gala, planning to humiliate me publicly, did you consider my feelings then?" Kenzie had the decency to look ashamed. "The gala was my idea. Thak didn't want to—" "Don't," Thak warned. "Don't what? Tell me the truth for once?" Vivian's voice rose. "What was the plan exactly? He calls last minute to cancel on me, then shows up with you on his arm, making your debut as a couple while I sit home alone, pregnant and oblivious? You make it sound so calculated," Kenzie protested. "Wasn't it?" Vivian walked to her design table, picking up a swatch of the emerald fabric. "I've been working 16-hour days on this collection. This dress was going to be my statement piece." She let the fabric fall from her fingers. "Meanwhile, you two were planning to use the same event to debut your relationship." Thak approached her cautiously. "We can talk about this tomorrow when everyone is calmer." "There's nothing to talk about." Vivian suddenly felt bone-tired. "You've made your choice. Now I'm making mine." She walked past them both to the bedroom and pulled out a suitcase. With mechanical precision, she began packing essentials, clothes, toiletries, her design portfolio, her prenatal vitamins. Thak followed her. "Where are you going? Does it matter to you?" "Of course it matters. You're carrying my child." The words ignited fresh anger. "Now you remember that detail? How convenient." She continued packing. "Don't worry, I won't disappear with your heir. You'll still get visitation rights." "This is ridiculous. You can't just leave. Watch me." She zipped the suitcase closed. "I'd rather sleep on the street than spend another night under the same roof with a man who could look me in the eye every day for 9 months and lie." "At least tell me where you're going," he insisted. "So you can what? Come apologize tomorrow with flowers when you realize your mistress is more complicated than you thought. Try to win me back until the next pretty employee catches your eye." Kenzie appeared in the bedroom doorway. "This isn't how this was supposed to happen." "No?" Vivian faced her. "How was it supposed to happen? A dignified conversation after my baby shower? A gentle letdown while I'm in labor?" She wheeled her suitcase past them both, pausing only to retrieve her phone and purse. "Vivian, don't do this," Thak called after her. "Think of the baby." "I am thinking of the baby," she replied, without turning around. "I'm thinking I don't want my child raised by a man who treats commitment like a temporary inconvenience." At the elevator, she finally turned to face them. Thak stood with one arm around Kenzie's waist. the tableau of their betrayal complete. "Enjoy the gala," Vivian said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I hope the debut of your relationship is everything you dreamed it would be." The elevator doors closed on their stricken faces. Zora Miller's loft in Wicker Park was the antithesis of the sleek, minimalist penthouse Vivian had left behind. Photographs covered every wall, plants crowded every window, and mismatched furniture created cozy conversation nooks throughout the open space. Vivian had called from the Uber, and Zora was waiting at the door when she arrived just after 1 a.m. "Holy shit," was all Zora said when she saw Vivian's tear-streaked face and suitcase. She pulled her friend inside without further questions. It wasn't until Vivian was settled on the couch with a mug of herbal tea that the story poured out of her. The messages, the confrontation, the ruined dress, the 9 months of deception. "That motherfucker," Zora whispered when Vivian finished. "And that dress, all that work? The dress doesn't matter," Vivian said, though her voice betrayed her. "Like hell it doesn't. That was your masterpiece. It was just fabric and thread." "No." Zora sat beside her, taking her hands. "It was your statement, your declaration of independence, your proof that motherhood wouldn't erase the artist in you." Fresh tears welled in Vivian's eyes. "Now it's just trash. What are you going to do?" "I don't know." Vivian's hand moved to her belly, where the baby shifted restlessly. "Find a place to live. Finish the collection somehow. Have this baby. And Thak? What about him? Are you going to fight for your marriage? For what's yours?" Vivian stared into her tea. "I don't know if there's anything left to fight for. The penthouse, the business connections, your lifestyle, your dignity." Zora counted off on her fingers. "He doesn't get to cheat on you, then ride off into the sunset with his little marketing Barbie like nothing happened. I can't think about that right now. You need to. Because tomorrow night they're going to be parading around that gala like royalty, and everyone will be whispering about poor pregnant Vivian, abandoned for a younger model." The image cut through Vivian like a knife. "Let them whisper. That's not you talking. That's shock." Zora picked up her phone. "The gala is being covered by every fashion blog and magazine in the Midwest. Your absence will be noted. Questions will be asked. What do you expect me to do? Show up alone with my ruined dress and broken heart?" "No," Zora said, her eyes suddenly alight with inspiration. "Not with a ruined dress." "What? Your collection is about transformation, right? About finding beauty in imperfection?" Zora stood, pacing excitedly. "What if the torn dress becomes part of the story, not a disaster, but a deliberate artistic choice?" "I don't understand." "Listen to me. Tomorrow night Thak and Kenzie think they're going to humiliate you by showing up together. They're expecting you to hide away in shame." Vivian nodded slowly. "But what if you took control of the narrative? What if you showed up at the Chicago Fashion Week runway show the day after, not as a victim, but as an artist making a bold statement? With what? I don't have a collection anymore. You have the most important piece." Zora's eyes gleamed. "That torn dress could become the centerpiece of a story about betrayal and rebirth, about taking something broken and making it more beautiful than it was before." Vivian sat straighter, her mind racing despite her exhaustion. "You mean redesign it? Incorporate the tears?" "Exactly. Make the destruction part of the design. Turn your pain into power." Zora knelt in front of her. "Don't let them write your story, Vi. Write it yourself." For the first time since reading those devastating messages, Vivian felt a flicker of something other than despair. Not quite hope, but something adjacent to it. Determination. "I'd need my supplies, my workspace. Use my studio. I have a sewing machine. Basic tools. We can get the rest tomorrow. The show is in 2 days. Then we better get started." Zora squeezed her hand. "Are you in?" Vivian thought of Thak and Kenzie at the gala, smiling for cameras, fielding questions about their relationship, while speculation about Vivian's absence ran wild. She thought of the headlines, the pitying looks, the assumption that she would simply fade away. "Yes," she said finally, a steely resolve hardening within her. "I'm in." As dawn broke over Chicago, Vivian sat at Zora's work table with scissors in hand. Not to destroy this time, but to create. The torn emerald fabric lay before her, its rips and gashes no longer symbols of betrayal, but openings for something new to emerge. She would not be erased. She would not be replaced. She would not be forgotten. She would transform. The morning sun filtered through Zora's studio windows, casting golden light across a workspace transformed overnight into a design laboratory. Scattered around Vivian were fragments of the emerald silk dress, now deconstructed into its basic elements. Her eyes were rimmed with red from sleeplessness, but they burned with a fierce intensity. "You're sure about this?" Zora asked, setting down a tray with fresh tea and toast. Vivian held up a piece of the torn bodice. "Look at this tear. It's not jagged or random. There's a beautiful line to it, almost like a lightning bolt." Her fingers traced the rip. "I spent so much time trying to make this dress perfect, hiding every flaw, every seam." She laughed softly. How ironic that it's more honest now. For 16 straight hours, Vivian worked without pause. The emerald silk was supplemented with metallic gold thread, which Vivian used to trace and emphasize each tear rather than hide it. Where the fabric had been most severely damaged, she inserted panels of sheer golden mesh, creating intentional windows that revealed glimpses of skin beneath. Each rip became an opportunity, each tear a deliberate statement. "It's like kintsugi," Zora observed, photographing the process. "The Japanese art of mending broken pottery with gold, making the repairs part of the aesthetic history rather than something to disguise." Vivian looked up, needle paused mid-stitch. "Exactly. Why hide the breaks when they can become the most beautiful part?" By noon, their quiet work was interrupted by the incessant buzzing of Vivian's phone. She had silenced it upon arrival, but curiosity finally made her check the screen. 27 missed calls, 15 voicemails, 63 text messages. "They've noticed I'm gone," she murmured. Zora peered over her shoulder. "Not just that. Look." She pulled up a fashion blog on her tablet. The headline read, "Trouble in Tech Paradise. Novak and Reed spotted together at Illinois Tech Gala, while pregnant wife nowhere to be seen." Below was a photo of Thak in a black tuxedo, hand placed possessively on the small of Kenzie's back. She wore a form-fitting red dress with a plunging neckline, her smile triumphant as they entered the venue. "That didn't take long," Vivian said, her voice distant. "There's more." Zora swiped to another article. Industry insiders claim marketing director Kenzie Reed has been romantically involved with CEO Thackeray Novak for months, despite his wife Vivian's pregnancy announcement last fall. The words stung, but less than Vivian had expected. Something had shifted inside her during the night, pain transforming into purpose. Her phone buzzed again with a text from Thack. "Where are you? We need to talk. People are asking questions. He's worried about his image," Vivian said with a bitter laugh. "Not me, not the baby, his precious reputation." Zora squeezed her shoulder. "Use it." "What do you mean?" "Use the publicity. The Chicago Fashion Week showcase is tomorrow night. Everyone in the industry is already gossiping about you. Make them talk on your terms." Vivian considered this, fingers running over the golden seams of her reconstructed dress. "I need to make calls." Within hours, Vivian had spoken with the Fashion Week organizers, securing her original runway slot. The event coordinator, Imani Washington, had been sympathetic. "Girl, every woman in Chicago is on your side right now," Imani told her. "You show up tomorrow with something spectacular, and we'll make sure you have the spotlight." By evening, as Chicago's social elite dispersed from the tech gala, photos of Thack and Kenzie circulated widely. In most, they appeared tense despite their smiles. One captured them in an apparent argument. Kenzie's finger pointed accusingly at Thack's chest. "Trouble in paradise already?" Zora mused, scrolling through her feed. "Apparently the debut wasn't as smooth as planned," Vivian replied, not looking up from her work. "My absence raised more questions than they were prepared to answer." According to industry gossip, Thack had stumbled through vague explanations when asked about Vivian's whereabouts. By the end of the evening, several prominent investors had been seen leaving early, their expressions decidedly cool. Vivian received another text. "This is getting out of control. The board is concerned. Call me immediately." She deleted it without responding. Throughout that day and into the night, Vivian's redesigned emerald dress took shape. What had once been a conventional, albeit exquisite, evening gown was transforming into a sculptural piece of wearable art. The golden repair threads caught light dramatically, creating the impression that the dress was held together by captured lightning. "I need models for the rest of the collection," Vivian said suddenly, looking up from her work. "What rest of the collection?" Zora asked. "I thought this was just about the emerald dress." "It started that way, but now I see something bigger." Vivian stood, wincing slightly as her pregnant body protested the long hours of sitting. "This dress is the centerpiece, but it needs context. I need to show the before and after, the perfect facade and then the beautiful truth that emerges from destruction." Throughout that second night, Vivian sketched feverishly. She designed 5 additional pieces that would precede her emerald creation on the runway. Each one presented a facade of conventional perfection, but with strategic elements that hinted at the underlying truth, hidden seams that were slightly visible, perfect exteriors that revealed glimpses of raw edges beneath. "It's a narrative," she explained to Zora, "the story of pretending everything is perfect until it all falls apart, and finding something more authentic in the aftermath." By morning, Vivian had arranged for 3 additional models through Imani. Basic pattern pieces were cut from Zora's fabric stores, and 2 local seamstresses Vivian had previously worked with arrived to help with the execution. As news of Vivian's planned runway appearance spread through fashion circles, the media narrative began to shift. What had started as gossip about a tech mogul's affair was evolving into anticipation for a designer's creative response to personal betrayal. "The Phoenix Collection," whispered fashion bloggers. "Novak is rising from the ashes." Thak's calls became increasingly desperate. The company stock dropped 8 points today. "Investors are concerned about stability. We need to present a united front." Later, Kenzie's having second thoughts. This isn't what she wanted either. And finally, "Please, Vivian, for the sake of our child." She read each message with detached interest, as if studying the behavior of a stranger, before returning to her work. Late that afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived at Zora's studio. Eleanor Wilson, editor-in-chief of Style magazine and one of the most influential voices in American fashion, stood in the doorway observing the controlled chaos of creation. "When I heard what you were doing, I had to see for myself," Eleanor said, her British accent crisp. She was a striking woman in her 50s, silver hair cut in a severe bob that accentuated her sharp cheekbones. Vivian, hair piled messily atop her head and hands stained with gold fabric paint, stared in shock. "Eleanor, I wasn't expecting—" "Clearly," the editor smiled, softening her intimidating presence. "May I?" She gestured toward the emerald dress, now nearly complete on its mannequin. Vivian nodded, suddenly self-conscious. Eleanor circled the creation slowly, examining each detail with practiced precision. She touched one of the golden repair seams delicately. "You've made the damage the focal point." "Yes. It's not just fashion. It's commentary." Eleanor looked directly at Vivian. "It's your story." "It is. And will you be wearing it tomorrow night?" Vivian straightened. "I will. Despite being 6 months pregnant." "Because of being 6 months pregnant," Eleanor corrected. "It adds another layer to the narrative. Creation, destruction, rebirth." She nodded approvingly. "Style would like exclusive coverage." "Exclusive," Vivian echoed. "The full story, behind the scenes, your process, your vision." Eleanor's gaze was intense. "And yes, the personal context, but told your way, not through gossip columns." The offer was unexpected and significant. Style magazine coverage could elevate an emerging designer from local acclaim to national recognition overnight. "Why me?" Vivian asked frankly. "Because what you're creating here isn't just clothing. It's speaking to something universal." Eleanor gestured around the workspace. "Every woman who's ever been betrayed, undermined, or underestimated will see themselves in this collection. That's not fashion. That's cultural relevance." After Eleanor left, promising to send a photographer the following morning, Vivian sat quietly amidst her creation. "This is happening," Zora said, excitement bubbling in her voice. "You're not just saving your career, you're launching it into the stratosphere." Vivian placed a protective hand over her belly, feeling the baby shift. "It's strange. 3 days ago, I thought my life was over. Now it feels like it's just beginning." The morning of the fashion show arrived with a media frenzy. News of Vivian's planned appearance had leaked, and speculation ran wild about what she would present. Outside Zora's building, several photographers had gathered, hoping for a glimpse of the betrayed designer. Inside, Vivian moved with calm purpose. The collection, now officially titled Kintsugi, in reference to the Japanese art form, was complete. 6 pieces, including the reconstructed emerald dress, told a visual story of fracture and repair. Eleanor's photographer captured the final preparations, Vivian adjusting a golden seam, conferring with models, reviewing the runway sequence. Through it all, she maintained a serene focus that belied her inner turmoil. "He's trying to attend," Zora reported, checking her phone. "Thak. He's contacted the organizers asking for front row placement." "Let him come," Vivian said, surprising herself with her calm. "Let them both come." "Are you sure? I want them to see. Not just the dress, but me, standing despite what they did." Vivian touched the golden threads of her creation. "They expect me to be broken. I want them to see that broken doesn't mean defeated." Backstage at the venue, the energy was electric. Word had spread among the models and crew, and Vivian found herself surrounded by unexpected support. Designers who had previously regarded her as merely Thak Novak's wife with a fashion hobby now sought her out, expressing admiration for both her design innovation and personal courage. 5 minutes to places, the stage manager called. Vivian gathered her team. "Remember, this isn't about scandal or revenge. It's about transformation. Each piece shows how something broken can become something more honest, more beautiful than before." The models nodded, fully invested in the narrative they were about to present. Alone in her dressing area, Vivian finally allowed herself a moment of doubt. Her hand trembled slightly as she touched the emerald fabric of the dress waiting for her. In just minutes, she would walk onto that runway. 6 months pregnant, publicly betrayed, and wearing physical evidence of her pain transformed into art. The curtain between her area and the main backstage parted, and Imani stepped through. "They're here," she said quietly. "Front row, as requested." Vivian nodded. "Thank you. Are you ready for this?" "No," Vivian admitted. "But I'm doing it anyway." Imani smiled. "That's the definition of courage." She handed Vivian a small envelope. "This came for you. Messenger delivered it 5 minutes ago. Inside was a note in Thak's distinctive handwriting. Please don't do this. Some things should remain private, for everyone's sake. Vivian read it twice, then deliberately tore it into tiny pieces, letting them fall like confetti. 5 pieces before mine, she reminded Imani. I'll be ready. Left alone again, Vivian stood before the mirror. She had chosen minimal makeup, her natural beauty enhanced, but not masked. Her hair was pulled back in a simple chignon that emphasized her strong features. The emerald dress, now a tapestry of destruction and repair, waited on its hanger. She thought of the long journey to this moment. The girl who had arrived in Chicago with nothing but design sketches and determination, the woman who had fallen in love with a charismatic tech entrepreneur, the wife who had discovered her entire marriage was built on lies, the mother-to-be who found herself starting over. The music began, a haunting instrumental piece she had selected to accompany the collection. Vivian could visualize the first model stepping onto the runway, presenting the beginning of the story. With deliberate movements, she removed her robe and reached for the emerald dress. As she slipped it over her head, she felt its weight, not just of fabric and thread, but of meaning and intention. The golden repair lines gleamed under the lights, transforming what had been wounds into adornment. The dress fit perfectly around her pregnant belly, the strategic openings now revealing glimpses of her skin in a way that felt not exposing but empowering. She was not hiding her body or her truth. Through the curtain, she could hear the growing reaction to each piece as it appeared on the runway, murmurs rising to appreciative applause as the audience began to understand the narrative being presented. Final piece in 1 minute, the stage manager called softly. Vivian took a deep breath, hands moving instinctively to cradle her belly. We're going to show them, she whispered to her unborn child. Not just who I am, but who we are going to be. She stepped toward the runway entrance, the golden threads in her dress catching light with every movement, creating the illusion that she was illuminated from within. Through the gap in the curtains, she could see them, Thak and Kenzie, sitting uncomfortably in the front row, their faces tense. But Vivian's focus moved beyond them to the larger audience, to Eleanor Wilson watching intently, to the photographers poised to capture this moment. The penultimate model returned backstage, giving Vivian a fierce smile of encouragement. And now, the announcer's voice resonated through the venue, the final piece of the Kintsugi collection, presented by the designer herself, Vivian Novak. Vivian squared her shoulders, lifted her chin and prepared to step into the light, not as a victim but as a creator, not as a betrayed wife, but as an artist triumphant. This was her moment of transformation, her Kintsugi, The moment Vivian stepped onto the runway, time seemed to slow. The spotlights found her immediately, illuminating the golden threads that traced her dress's deliberate wounds. A collective gasp rippled through the audience, not of pity, but of awe. Head high, she walked with measured grace, each step deliberate despite her pregnancy. The emerald silk caught the light, shifting from deep forest to brilliant jade as she moved. Where the fabric had been torn, golden repair lines gleamed like veins of precious metal in raw stone. The audience's initial shock gave way to a reverent silence, then scattered applause that swelled into thunderous approval. Flashbulbs erupted in rapid succession, capturing her transformation from every angle. Vivian's eyes remained forward, focused on the end of the runway, until she reached the midpoint. There, she allowed herself to pause and turn slightly, acknowledging the front row with a direct gaze. Thack sat rigidly beside Kenzie, his face a mask of controlled tension. The confident tech mogul who commanded boardrooms with ease looked suddenly small, diminished by the power of his wife's statement. Beside him, Kenzie's expression cycled rapidly between embarrassment and defiance, the red dress she'd chosen for their debut as a couple now seeming garish against Vivian's elegant resilience. Vivian held their gaze for 3 heartbeats, long enough for the photographers to capture the moment, but not so long as to appear vindictive. With subtle dignity, she completed her turn and continued down the runway. As she reached the end, she placed one hand protectively over her pregnant belly, and the other on the golden seam running across her heart. The symbolism was unmistakable. Both her child and her broken heart were being carried forward with pride. The audience rose in a standing ovation before she had even completed her final turn. Fashion critics, industry insiders, and even competitors stood in unanimous appreciation of what they had witnessed. Not just a collection, but a declaration. When Vivian returned backstage, the models surrounded her, their excitement palpable. "That was transcendent," one whispered, squeezing her hand. "They're still applauding," another reported, peering through the curtain. Imani appeared, her professional composure momentarily abandoned. "They're calling for you again. The audience won't stop. They want you to take another bow." Vivian hesitated, then nodded. "All of us together, the entire collection." She led her models back onto the runway, the 6 pieces of the Kintsugi collection, forming a visual narrative of transformation. As they lined up for the final acknowledgement, the applause intensified. Flowers were thrown onto the runway, an unusual gesture at a contemporary fashion show, but fitting for the emotional response the collection had evoked. "Look," one of the models whispered, nodding toward the front row. Thack's seat was empty. Kenzie remained, her posture stiff, her face flushed with either anger or embarrassment, perhaps both. She met Vivian's eyes briefly before looking away, the weight of public judgment visibly pressing upon her. As Vivian exited the runway for the final time, she was immediately surrounded by journalists calling questions. "Vivian, was this collection inspired by your husband's affair? Is the golden repair a message about your marriage? Are you planning to divorce Thackeray Novak? How does it feel to transform personal pain into artistic triumph?" Before she could respond, Eleanor Wilson materialized at her side, her authoritative presence creating a buffer between Vivian and the press. "Ms. Novak will be giving an exclusive interview to Style magazine," Eleanor announced. "She will not be taking questions at this time." With practiced efficiency, she guided Vivian toward a private backstage area. Once they were alone, Eleanor handed Vivian a glass of water. "Magnificent," she said simply. "You've created something extraordinary tonight." "Thank you," Vivian replied, suddenly aware of her exhaustion. 3 days of non-stop work, emotional turmoil, and now this public exposure had taken their toll. "Rest," Eleanor advised, noting her fatigue. "Tomorrow, we'll do the interview and photo shoot at your convenience. Tonight belongs to the moment you just created." As Eleanor stepped away to arrange details with her team, Zora rushed in, phone in hand. "V, you've gone viral. Every fashion blog, every social media platform, they're calling it the most powerful runway moment of the decade." She held up her phone, showing Vivian the trending hashtags: Kintsugi collection, Vivian Novak, golden repair. "That's not all," Zora continued, swiping to a financial news site. Novak Industries stock dropped 15 points in after-hours trading. Investors are spooked by the leadership crisis and questions of judgment at the top. Vivian absorbed this information with complicated emotions. She hadn't intended to damage Thak's company, which employed hundreds of people, yet she couldn't deny a flicker of satisfaction that his actions were having professional consequences. "There's more," Zora said, lowering her voice. "3 major retailers have already reached out about carrying your collection, and a luxury department store wants to discuss an exclusive line." The possibilities were dizzying. After years of struggling for recognition, of being seen as merely Thak Novak's creative wife, Vivian was suddenly at the center of a career-making moment. A security guard appeared at the door. "Ms. Novak? There's a Mr. Novak insisting on speaking with you." Vivian exchanged glances with Zora, who moved protectively closer. "It's okay," Vivian assured her friend. "I'll see him." "Are you sure?" "Yes. Here now, with everyone watching, this is the safest place for that conversation." When Thak entered, he looked nothing like the confident magnate who had built a tech empire. His tie was loosened, hair slightly disheveled, eyes haunted with a mixture of anger and something resembling respect. "Was that necessary?" he asked without preamble. "Making a public spectacle of our private issues?" Vivian regarded him calmly. "I didn't make it public. You did that when you decided to debut your affair at the gala. This is affecting the company. The board called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning." "That sounds like a professional problem, not a personal one." His jaw tightened. "Don't be vindictive, Vivian. You're better than that." "No, I'm exactly that good." She gestured to her dress. "You tore apart something beautiful. I made it into something extraordinary. That's not vindictive. It's creative problem-solving." "Kenzie's devastated. This wasn't what she signed up for." Vivian laughed softly. What exactly did she think would happen when she pursued a married man whose wife was pregnant? "That's unfair. I pursued her too." "Then you're both facing exactly what you signed up for." Vivian placed a protective hand over her belly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a magazine interview to prepare for and retailers to meet with. It seems my career is taking off, just as yours faces its first real crisis." Thak's expression hardened. "This isn't over." "You're right," Vivian agreed. "It's just beginning." The following weeks unfolded with dizzying speed. The Style magazine cover story, "Golden Repair, Vivian Novak transforms betrayal into breakthrough," hit newsstands and immediately sold out, requiring a rare second printing. The photo spread featured Vivian in her emerald creation, her pregnancy prominently displayed, her face serene but determined. Eleanor's accompanying article was thoughtful rather than sensationalistic, exploring the artistic process of the Kintsugi collection while acknowledging its personal origins. The piece positioned Vivian not as a victim, but as an artist whose lived experience informed her creative vision. The professional ramifications were immediate. Vivian signed an exclusive deal with Neiman Marcus to develop an expanded ready-to-wear line based on the Kintsugi concept. 3 major fashion houses reached out with collaboration offers. A prominent New York gallery proposed an exhibition featuring the original emerald dress as a centerpiece of wearable art. Meanwhile, Novak Industries faced its first significant crisis since going public. The board's emergency meeting resulted in a terse statement supporting Thak's leadership while announcing the mutual decision that Kenzie Reed would be stepping down to pursue other opportunities. Financial analysts noted that several major investors had reduced their holdings, citing concerns about judgment and stability in executive leadership. Social consequences emerged as well. Invitations that had once flowed freely to Thak and Kenzie now slowed to a trickle. Chicago's elite, particularly the influential wives who controlled the social calendar, closed ranks around Vivian. The betrayed pregnant wife transformed into a symbol of feminine resilience was a narrative too powerful to resist, especially when contrasted with the ambitious young woman who had pursued a married, expectant father. Vivian observed these developments from a distance. Her focus narrowed to 2 priorities: preparing for her child's birth and building her nascent design business. With Zora's help, she found a sunlit loft in the West Loop that served as both living space and studio. The open industrial aesthetics suited her new design philosophy, embracing raw edges and structural honesty rather than artificial perfection. 7 months pregnant now, Vivian worked with methodical determination. She hired 2 design assistants, established production relationships, and began developing the expanded Kintsugi line for fall release. The creative energy that had always been within her found full expression, no longer constrained by self-doubt or Thak's subtle undermining? You seem different, Zora observed one evening as they reviewed fabric samples, not just professionally, but personally. Vivian considered this. I am. For years, I was playing a supporting role in my own life. Thak's wife, the woman behind the man, even my designs were filtered through that lens. Would they reflect well on him? Would they embarrass him at corporate events? She selected a swatch of midnight blue silk. Now I'm the protagonist of my own story. Speaking of your story's antagonist, Zora said carefully, have you heard from him lately? Not directly. His lawyers contacted mine about the penthouse and the divorce proceedings. Vivian placed a protective hand over her rounded belly. They've proposed a settlement that's actually quite generous. Smart move on his part. The last thing he needs is more bad publicity. That's why I haven't signed yet. Vivian's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in her eyes. I'm waiting. For what? The right moment. She changed the subject, holding up 2 fabric swatches. Which do you prefer for the fall collection? 3 days later, that moment arrived in the form of an unexpected visitor to Vivian's studio. Her assistant announced, "There's a Ms. Reed here to see you." Vivian looked up from her sketches, momentarily surprised. "Send her in." Kenzie entered cautiously, a shadow of her former confident self. Without the protective armor of Novak Industries behind her, she seemed younger, smaller. Her designer outfit looked slightly too formal for the occasion, as if she'd dressed for a difficult business meeting. "Thank you for seeing me," Kenzie said, remaining near the door. "I admit I'm curious what brings you here." Vivian gestured to a chair across from her work table. Kenzie sat stiffly. "I wanted to speak with you directly, woman to woman. 3 months too late, but go on. I've been trying to understand what happened, how we all got here." Kenzie looked down at her hands. "It wasn't supposed to end this way. How was it supposed to end? With me quietly accepting my replacement, fading into convenient obscurity while you took my life?" "No, I mean," Kenzie struggled. "I don't know what I expected. Thak made it seem like your marriage was already over in all but name. He said once the baby came, you'd both move on naturally." Vivian's laugh was soft but cutting. "And you believed that?" "I wanted to." Kenzie met her eyes directly. "I loved him. I still do. But everything's falling apart." "Your career at Novak Industries, you mean?" "It's more than that. The board forced me out, yes, but that was just the beginning. No one will hire me now. I'm too controversial. My reputation..." She trailed off. "And Thak is different. Distant. Angry all the time. Funny how actions have consequences," Vivian observed, her tone devoid of sympathy. "He blames me," Kenzie continued, her voice cracking, "for the company problems, for the social ostracism. Says I pushed too hard to go public at the gala." She blinked back tears. "But it was his idea to wait until after your baby was born to tell you. His idea to keep up appearances until then." Vivian absorbed this information, filing it away. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think I've been used." Kenzie's voice steadied with realization. "By him, by circumstances, by my own naivety. And I wanted you to know that I see that now." "And what do you expect me to do with this information? Forgive you? Become allies against him?" Vivian's hand moved protectively to her belly as the baby kicked. "You helped destroy my marriage, Kenzie. You knowingly pursued a relationship with my husband while I was carrying his child." "I know." Kenzie stood, collecting herself. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just thought you deserved the truth, especially now that you're negotiating the divorce settlement." Vivian's expression revealed nothing. "Is there something specific about the settlement I should know?" Kenzie hesitated, clearly weighing her next words carefully. "Just that Thak has been moving assets since your runway show, preparing for what he calls worst-case scenarios." She reached into her bag and removed a flash drive, placing it on the table. Company financial records from the last 3 weeks. Transfers, account movements, restructuring. "Why give me this?" "Because it's the right thing to do." Kenzie moved toward the door. "And because I'm tired of being the villain in a story where no one's hands are clean." After Kenzie left, Vivian stared at the flash drive, turning it over in her fingers. A key to information that could significantly impact her divorce settlement and possibly Thak's future at Novak Industries. That evening she met with her lawyer, reviewing the contents with methodical precision. The information was damning. Thak had indeed been systematically moving personal and corporate assets, clearly preparing to minimize what Vivian could claim in the divorce. "This changes everything," her lawyer said, scrolling through the documents. "With this evidence, we can request a forensic accountant, freeze assets, potentially even trigger an SEC investigation if any of these movements involved misleading shareholders." Vivian sat back, one hand resting on her belly. How long would all that take? Months at minimum, possibly years if he fights it. And the publicity? Devastating for him, for the company too. Vivian nodded slowly, a plan crystallizing in her mind. Draft 2 documents. First, a letter to Thak outlining what we know and suggesting a meeting. Second, a revised settlement agreement with significantly improved terms. "You're not going to pursue the asset concealment?" "Not yet." A small smile played at Vivian's lips. "First, let's see if Thak is willing to negotiate from a position of informed consent." 2 days later, Thak requested a meeting at a neutral location, an upscale restaurant with private dining rooms. When Vivian arrived, he was already seated, looking haggard despite his expensive suit. "You're looking well," he said, as she took her seat across from him. "Pregnancy suits you." "Creation usually does," she replied evenly. "Whether it's a child or a collection." He nodded toward her expanded belly. "How is everything?" "The baby is healthy, active, due in 7 weeks." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, the remains of intimacy making small talk impossible, but meaningful conversation too raw. Finally, Thak spoke. "Your lawyer's demands are excessive. They're proportionate to what you've been hiding." His face tightened. "Those documents were obtained illegally." "Perhaps. But they exist, and now others know they exist." Vivian's voice remained calm. "Would you like to discuss what happens if they reach the board? Or the SEC? This isn't you, Vivian. You've never been vindictive or mercenary. You've never given me reason to be." She placed both hands on the table, leaning forward slightly. "But I've learned something valuable from you, Thak, recognizing leverage when you have it." His expression shifted, anger giving way to something like reluctant respect. "What do you want?" "Everything outlined in the revised agreement. Full ownership of the penthouse, increased support for the child, and a significant stake in Novak Industries. Not just financially, but a board seat." "A board seat? That's ridiculous. You have no corporate experience." "I have excellent judgment, which is more than the current CEO can claim." Her smile was razor thin. "Besides, think how progressive it will look, giving your ex-wife and the mother of your child a voice in the company, a real commitment to diversity and female leadership." Thak's laugh was hollow. "You've become quite the strategist." "I've always been strategic. You just never noticed because it didn't directly benefit you." She pushed a folder across the table. "My final offer. Sign, and those financial records remain our secret. Refuse, and they become very public tomorrow morning." He opened the folder, scanning the document with narrowed eyes. "And if I agree to this blackmail? Then we move forward separately but civilly. You keep your company and reputation largely intact. I raise our child and build my design business. We interact only as necessary for the sake of our child." Thak studied her for a long moment. "You've changed. I've grown." She stood, gathering her purse. "You have until tomorrow to decide. My lawyer will be expecting your call." As she walked away, Vivian felt a curious lightness. For the first time since discovering Thak's betrayal, she was completely in control, not just of her creative future, but of the narrative that would define their separation. What Thak couldn't see was that his signature, regardless of which option he chose, was merely the first step in a longer strategy. The real revenge wasn't in the settlement terms, generous though they were. It wasn't even in the potential exposure of his financial maneuvers. It was in what would come next. The signed settlement agreement arrived via courier the following morning. Thak had capitulated to every demand: the penthouse, the increased support, the board seat at Novak Industries. His signature, once a powerful scrawl that commanded technology empires, appeared shaky and diminished on the final page. "He caved completely," Vivian's lawyer said over the phone, surprise evident in her voice. "No negotiation, no counter-offers." "He's protecting something more valuable than money," Vivian replied, "his image." What Vivian didn't share was her certainty that Thak viewed this as a temporary setback, a strategic retreat before an eventual counter-offensive. She had studied him for years, absorbing his business philosophy through dinner conversations and overheard phone calls. Thak Novak never accepted defeat. He merely reframed it as a prelude to victory. 3 weeks passed. Vivian's focus narrowed to two priorities: preparing for her child's imminent arrival and finalizing her fall collection. The business opportunities stemming from her runway triumph continued to multiply. A documentary filmmaker wanted to capture her creative process, a prestigious design school invited her to give a guest lecture, and retailers competed for exclusive arrangements. Her new design studio, established in a renovated industrial space in Chicago's West Loop, hummed with creative energy. 6 employees now worked under Vivian's direction, transforming her kintsugi concept into a comprehensive fashion philosophy. The marketing team suggested Phoenix Threads as the brand name, reported Marina, Vivian's newly hired business manager. Their research shows it resonates strongly with focus groups, the imagery of rising from ashes, of transformation. Vivian considered this, hands resting on her now prominent belly. Phoenix Threads, she repeated, testing the sound of it. Yes, that feels right. The irony wasn't lost on her. Thak had once dismissed her design ambitions as an expensive hobby. Now, while his company struggled with investor confidence issues, her nascent business was attracting venture capital interest and retail partnerships. That evening, alone in the penthouse that was now legally hers, Vivian finalized sketches for the collection's signature piece, a structured blazer with strategic fractures reinforced with gold-infused thread. As she worked, the baby kicked energetically. "You're going to be strong-willed," she murmured, rubbing the spot. "Good. You'll need that in this world." The intercom buzzed. A rare interruption at 9 p.m. The security desk announced Thak was requesting permission to come up. Vivian hesitated, then agreed. Curiosity, more than anything else, motivated her decision. When Thak stepped off the private elevator, Vivian hardly recognized him. The confident tech mogul had diminished visibly, his designer suit hanging slightly loose, dark circles shadowing his eyes, his normally immaculate appearance showing signs of neglect. "I need to talk to you," he said without preamble. "It's late," Vivian replied, remaining seated at her design table. "And I have no legal obligation to speak with you outside of scheduled meetings. This isn't about legal obligations." He moved further into the space, stopping when he noticed her slight tensing. "It's about us." "There is no us, Thak. Just co-parents with a legally binding agreement. Kenzie left me." The words tumbled out abruptly. 3 days ago, packed her things and disappeared. Vivian absorbed this without visible reaction. "I assume you didn't come here for relationship counseling." "I came because I've realized what a catastrophic mistake I made." He stepped closer, desperation evident in his voice. "Everything's falling apart. The company, my reputation, my personal life. And for what? An affair that meant nothing compared to what we built together." "Meant nothing?" Vivian raised an eyebrow. "I threw away our marriage for something that meant nothing." I was confused, stressed about becoming a father, flattered by her attention. Classic midlife crisis material. His attempted self-deprecating smile fell flat. "But seeing you these past months, how you've transformed tragedy into triumph, it's made me realize what I lost." "What you discarded," she corrected. "Deliberately, over 9 months." "Yes." He looked genuinely pained. "I have no excuse. But I'm asking for another chance. For our family. For our child." Vivian studied him silently, noting the subtle tells of insincerity she'd learned to recognize over their years together. The slightly calculated angle of his head, the practiced vulnerability in his expression. "Why now, Thak? What's really happening?" His composure slipped momentarily. 3 major investors pulled out yesterday. The board is discussing leadership alternatives. The company value has dropped 40% since... He trailed off. "Since the world discovered you were cheating on your pregnant wife and trying to hide assets during divorce proceedings?" "Yes." His voice hardened slightly. "A situation your runway show exacerbated considerably. So this visit isn't about love or regret. It's about damage control." Vivian returned to her sketching, dismissing him with the gesture. "The answer is no." "No to what? I haven't even..." "Yes, you have." She looked up, pinning him with her gaze. "You want us to reconcile publicly. Present a united front to save the company. Perhaps a touching story about forgiveness and second chances, timed perfectly for the quarterly investor meeting." His silence confirmed her assessment. "Did you rehearse this visit?" she asked. "Did you practice looking contrite in the mirror? That's not fair. Neither was discovering your affair through text messages while 6 months pregnant." She set down her pencil, This conversation is over. Vivian, please. His voice cracked with what sounded like genuine emotion. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but our child deserves an intact family, a father present in daily life. Our child deserves a mother who values herself enough not to accept betrayal. She placed a protective hand over her belly, and a father who demonstrates integrity, not convenience. I made one mistake. 9 months of daily lies isn't one mistake. It's thousands of individual choices to deceive someone who trusted you. She stood with effort, her pregnancy making the movement ungainly. This manipulation might work in your boardroom, Thak, but not with me, not anymore. Desperation edged into his expression. What can I do to fix this? Nothing. The word was final, decisive. Some things once broken can't be repaired. They can only be transformed into something new. You taught me that. As she moved to show him out, a sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. She gasped, clutching the edge of the table. Vivian! Thak stepped toward her, alarm replacing calculation. Another contraction seized her, more intense than the first. Call my doctor, she managed. Tell her I think I'm in labor. It's too early, he protested, even as he reached for his phone. 4 weeks early, she confirmed, breathing through the pain. But apparently your child is as impatient as you are. Julian Reed Novak arrived at 3:47 a.m. after 11 hours of labor. 6 pounds, 2 ounces of determined new life. Despite his early arrival, his lungs proved remarkably strong, his indignant cry echoing through the delivery room with impressive force. Vivian, exhausted but triumphant, cradled him against her chest. Hello, little phoenix, she whispered. We've both been through fire, haven't we? Thak, who had remained throughout the delivery despite Vivian's initial objections, stood awkwardly at her bedside. The night had transformed him, disheveled, emotionally raw, stripped of the polished facade he presented to the world. He's perfect, he said, voice thick with emotion. Yes, he is. Vivian didn't look up from their son's face. Vivian, after everything we've just been through together, we didn't go through it together, she interrupted quietly. I went through labor. You watched, just like you watched our marriage fall apart while actively destroying it. She finally met his eyes. Nothing has changed, Thak. His expression hardened almost imperceptibly. I'll respect your wishes for now, but this isn't over. After he left, Zora arrived with an armful of sunflowers and fiercely protective energy. How's my godson? Perfect, Vivian answered, passing the sleeping infant to her friend. And how's the world outside these walls? Zora's expression turned mischievous. You might be interested to know that Novak Industries announced an executive restructuring this morning. The board has appointed an interim CEO while Thak takes a personal leave of absence. They removed him? Vivian was genuinely surprised. Temporarily, they're saying, for family reasons, but industry insiders are calling it what it is, a power move while he's vulnerable. Zora cradled Julian carefully. Your timing is impeccable, little man. Over the following months, Vivian established a new rhythm to her life. Mornings with Julian, afternoons at the studio, evenings developing her business strategy. Motherhood and entrepreneurship entwined in her days, each informing the other with a synergy that energized rather than depleted her. Phoenix Threads launched officially 3 months after Julian's birth. The fall collection, expanded from the original kintsugi concept, received critical acclaim and commercial success beyond even the most optimistic projections. Vivian's story, of betrayal transformed into artistic triumph, became fashion industry legend, driving both press coverage and consumer loyalty. Her board seat at Novak Industries gave her unexpected influence as the company navigated troubled waters. Though she attended meetings remotely at first, focusing primarily on her son and fledgling company, her perspective on product development proved valuable enough that other board members began seeking her input privately. They're surprised I understand technology markets, Vivian told Zora after one particularly productive meeting, as if I didn't absorb everything Thak discussed at dinner for 5 years. Meanwhile, Thak's temporary leave extended indefinitely. His return to the CEO position, initially presented as inevitable, became increasingly doubtful as interim leadership stabilized the company. Industry gossip suggested he was drinking heavily, his legendary focus scattered by personal and professional setbacks. 6 months after Julian's birth, Vivian received an unexpected call from Sandra Chen, Novak Industries' chief financial officer and a board ally. There's something you should know, Sandra said without preamble. Thak is making moves to return as CEO next month. He's calling in favors, pressuring board members, promising a revolutionary new product line to restore investor confidence. Can he succeed? Vivian asked, watching Julian nap in his bassinet beside her desk. Possibly. The company still bears his name and some board members have short memories. Sandra paused. But there's another option. The board's nominating committee is considering an unorthodox candidate for permanent CEO. Who? You. Vivian nearly dropped the phone. That's absurd. I have no executive experience. You have exceptional judgment, intimate knowledge of the company's history, and something no other candidate possesses, a compelling redemption narrative that investors and media would embrace. I'm building my own company, which could become a subsidiary or partner brand. Many CEOs maintain multiple business interests. Sandra's voice softened slightly. Think about it, Vivian. The symmetry would be satisfying. After hanging up, Vivian stared out her studio windows at the Chicago skyline, considering implications that extended far beyond business strategy. Taking Thak's position, his company, his creation, his identity, would be the ultimate reversal of fortune. It would also be the ultimate revenge. That evening, she opened her laptop and began researching Novak Industries' product pipeline, leadership structure, and market position with the same methodical attention she brought to her design work. By midnight, she had compiled a comprehensive analysis of the company's strengths, weaknesses, and untapped opportunities. One particular possibility captured her attention, an abandoned project Thak had mentioned years earlier involving adaptive fashion technology. The concept had been ahead of its time then, but with current advances in flexible circuitry and Phoenix Thread's focus on transformative clothing, the synergy potential was significant. 3 days later, Vivian requested a private meeting with the Novak Industries board, excluding Thak. The boardroom fell silent as Vivian concluded her presentation. For 40 minutes, she had outlined a vision for Novak Industries that integrated technological innovation with her unique design philosophy, adaptive clothing that changed color, texture, or thermal properties based on environmental conditions or wearer preferences. This isn't just fashion technology, she explained, gesturing to the prototype displayed on the central table. It's the next evolution of wearable computing, aesthetically sophisticated, practically invisible, and infinitely customizable. Board members exchanged glances, their initial skepticism replaced by grudging interest. The market potential is undeniable, admitted Richard Oakes, the most conservative board member. But the question remains, why you, Ms. Novak? Why not simply license your design concepts to an experienced CEO? Vivian smiled slightly. Because no other CEO embodies the transformation this company needs. She moved to the window overlooking Chicago's technological corridor. Novak Industries began as an outsider disrupting established systems. Now it's become the establishment, rigid, reactionary, afraid of bold moves. She turned back to face them. I'm offering you both innovation and symbolism, a new direction with a compelling narrative that will resonate with investors, media, and consumers alike. And what about Phoenix Threads? Asked another board member. It becomes our proof of concept brand, the public face of our adaptive technology, while Novak Industries develops the underlying systems for broader licensing. Vivian's confidence was evident in her posture, her voice. The synergy is perfect. After she left, the board remained in closed-door session for 3 additional hours. When they emerged, their decision had been made. Thak received the news via formal letter, delivered to the downtown apartment he'd been renting since the separation. The board had voted 7-2 to appoint Vivian Novak as Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. His position was being eliminated as part of a strategic restructuring. He arrived at Vivian's studio unannounced the following morning, bypassing security through sheer force of personality. When he burst into her office, she was reviewing fabric samples with 2 designers, Julian napping in his portable bassinet nearby. "You engineered this," he accused without preamble. "You stole my company." Vivian calmly dismissed her team before responding. "I accepted a position I was offered based on merit and vision." "Bullshit. This was your plan all along." His voice rose dangerously. "From the moment you found those texts, you've been systematically dismantling everything I built." "Lower your voice," she warned, glancing at their sleeping son. "You're in my workspace now, not yours." Mine? Nothing is mine anymore. His control slipped further. My company, my home, my reputation, you've taken everything. No, Thak, I've built something from the ruins you created. Vivian remained eerily calm. When you destroyed our marriage, you taught me something valuable. That destruction can be a catalyst for creation. I'm simply applying that lesson. This isn't over, he threatened. I'll fight the board decision. I'll take legal action. On what grounds? Your extended personal leave gave the board every right to seek permanent leadership. She stood, facing him directly. But by all means, pursue legal options. I'm sure the discovery process, exposing your asset concealment attempts, your personal conduct, your decision-making patterns, will make fascinating reading for shareholders. His face contorted with a mixture of rage and dawning comprehension. You planned this, all of it. The runway show, the strategic settlement, the board seat. I seized opportunities as they presented themselves, she corrected. A skill I learned from you. They'll see through you eventually. You can't run a technology company on fashion instincts. Perhaps not. But I can run it on vision, integrity, and innovation. Qualities Novak Industries has been lacking recently. Her smile was tinged with genuine pity. The irony, Thak, is that I never wanted your company. I only wanted our marriage. You're the one who taught me to take what others discard and transform it into something more valuable. He stared at her, recognition dawning in his eyes. This is your revenge. No, she said softly. This is my renaissance. Julian stirred in his bassinet, whimpering slightly. Vivian moved to him immediately, lifting him with practiced ease. Security will escort you out, she told Thak as she cradled their son. I suggest you exit with dignity. It's the one asset you have left to preserve. As Thak was led away, Vivian held Julian closer, whispering against his downy head. That's the last piece, little Phoenix. The final transformation. The symmetry was perfect, the circle complete. Thak had betrayed her at the moment of creation, when their child was first growing within her. Now, with that child in her arms, she had reclaimed not just what was taken, but something greater, a future entirely of her own design. Phoenix Thread's new headquarters would occupy the top floor of the Novak Industries building, she decided in that moment. A visual reminder that from the ashes of what was destroyed, something more powerful had risen. 8 years later, the Chicago Museum of Contemporary Art was transformed for the evening, its modern architecture enhanced by strategic lighting that cast golden threads across the entrance. Inside, fashion industry elites, technology entrepreneurs, and cultural tastemakers mingled beneath floating displays of fabrics that shifted color subtly as viewers moved around them. Metamorphosis, a retrospective of Phoenix Novak designs, read the exhibit banner spanning the main gallery entrance. The show marked not only the 8th anniversary of Phoenix Thread's founding, but also celebrated the company's evolution into Phoenix Novak, now a $2.7 billion enterprise that had permanently changed the intersection of fashion and technology. At the center of it all stood Vivian Novak, 42 now, her natural beauty enhanced by the confidence that came from building an empire. She wore a midnight blue gown embedded with responsive microfilaments that rippled with subtle golden patterns as she moved, the latest from her adaptive couture line. "Mom, look what Dr. Chen showed me." 8-year-old Julian weaved expertly through the crowd toward her, brandishing a small circuit board. His dark curls bounced with his movement, his eyes, so like his father's, alight with excitement. It's a prototype of the new color shift nodes. They're 50% more efficient than the current ones. Vivian smiled, ruffling his hair. Did you understand the technical specifications? Mostly, he admitted. The quantum tunneling part was confusing, but she said I'm getting better at the engineering concepts. Sandra Chen, still Novak Industries CFO, and now one of Julian's many unofficial mentors, approached behind him. He's got a remarkable mind for patterns, she told Vivian, both aesthetic and mathematical. Wonder where he gets that from. Julian beamed at the praise, then spotted the interactive technology display across the gallery. Can I go try the adaptive playground installation? Go ahead, Vivian nodded, but stay where I can see you. As Julian raced off, Sandra raised her champagne glass slightly. To 8 years of proving everyone wrong, she said. When the board appointed you CEO, half the tech analysts predicted disaster within 18 months. And the other half gave us 6 months, Vivian laughed. I still have those predictions framed in my office, alongside the stock charts showing 340% growth since you took over, Sandra added, not to mention revolutionizing wearable tech while building Phoenix into a global brand. They both turned to watch Julian, who was now enthralled by the interactive fabric exhibition, running his hands over surfaces that responded to his touch with changing colors and patterns. He's remarkable, Sandra observed, so much like you in his creative thinking, and like his father in his technical instincts, Vivian acknowledged without bitterness. Nature's balance. The museum's main exhibition hall had been transformed into a chronological journey through Phoenix Novak's evolution. Visitors moved through 8 years of innovation, from the original kintsugi collection to the latest adaptive textile technologies that had made the company a global leader in smart fashion. At the entrance to this journey stood a single display case, dramatically lit and positioned so that every visitor encountered it first. Inside, mounted on a minimalist form, was the original emerald dress, the torn, golden-repaired creation that had launched everything. The accompanying plaque read, "Genesis the Emerald Dress 2025, the founding artifact of Phoenix Novak." Originally created as a conventional evening gown, then torn in a moment of personal crisis, this piece was reimagined by designer Vivian Novak as a statement on transformation and resilience. The deliberate highlighting of damage rather than its concealment became the philosophical foundation of the Phoenix design ethos. Eleanor Wilson, now in her 60s but still Style magazine's formidable editor-in-chief, joined Vivian beside the display case. "I was just remembering the first time I saw this," Eleanor said, "in that makeshift studio at Zora's loft. I knew immediately it wasn't just fashion, it was cultural commentary. And I was just trying to survive," Vivian reflected. "Funny how our most desperate moments can become our most defining." "So, speaking of defining moments," Eleanor lowered her voice slightly, "did you know he's here?" Vivian's expression didn't change. "Yes, the guest list crossed my desk. Are you concerned?" "About Thak?" "No." Vivian's gaze drifted to Julian across the room. "It's been 3 years since his last attempt to reconnect. I assumed he'd given up." Eleanor followed her gaze to Julian. "He's here for his son, not you." "Perhaps, but Julian is not a bargaining chip or a restoration project." Vivian smiled slightly as her son demonstrated something to a group of impressed children. "He's his own person, already more integrated than his father ever was." Vivian had maintained her promise regarding Thak's parental rights. Despite his downward spiral, she had facilitated regular visitation, believing Julian deserved to know his father. But as the years progressed, those visits became increasingly erratic, Thak cancelling at the last minute, appearing distracted when present, missing important events. Now Julian saw his father primarily on scheduled holidays and occasional weekends, an arrangement that seemed to satisfy neither but protected both from deeper disappointment. Across the gallery, Vivian spotted him, Thackeray Novak at 50, a shadow of his former self. Still handsome in a haggard way, he'd maintained his physical fitness, but lost the commanding presence that once defined him. His suit was expensive, but slightly outdated, his posture that of a man carrying invisible weight. "Excuse me," she told Eleanor. "I should acknowledge his presence for Julian's sake." As she crossed the room, Vivian noted how people unconsciously made way for her, not from fear, but from a natural deference to her quiet authority. She'd built that respect carefully over 8 years, transaction by transaction, decision by decision, innovation by innovation. "Thak," she greeted him neutrally. "I'm glad you could attend." He turned, momentarily startled by her sudden presence. "Vivian, congratulations on the exhibition. It's impressive." "Thank you." She maintained a professional distance. "Julian will be pleased you came. He's over by the adaptive playground installation if you'd like to say hello." Thak nodded, his eyes scanning the crowd. "He's gotten so tall. I hardly recognized him in the photos from his last science fair." "The one you were supposed to attend?" The words slipped out before Vivian could moderate them. He had the grace to look ashamed. "I had a conflicting commitment." "Yes, Julian mentioned something about Bangkok. A startup opportunity?" "It didn't pan out," he admitted, like most things these days. The past 8 years had not been kind to Thackeray Novak. After losing control of Novak Industries, he had launched 3 consecutive startup ventures, each failing more quickly than the last. His reputation for innovation had been overshadowed by rumors of erratic behavior, alcohol abuse, and bitter tirades against his ex-wife's success. His most recent venture, ironically, a competing smart fabric technology, had collapsed 6 months earlier when investors withdrew after disappointing prototype demonstrations. "I saw the display," he said, nodding toward the emerald dress. "Patient zero of my destruction." "That's a strange perspective," Vivian replied. "Most people see it as the genesis of something, not the end." Semantic difference. He sipped what Vivian suspected wasn't his first drink of the evening. "Though I'll grant you this, what you've built is extraordinary. Even I can acknowledge that. Thank you." She glanced toward Julian. "If you'll excuse me, I should continue greeting guests. Please spend some time with your son. He's been working on a circuit design I think you'd find interesting." As she turned to leave, Thack caught her elbow lightly. "Actually, I was hoping we could talk. Privately. It's important." Something in his tone, a familiar desperation thinly veiled, made Vivian pause. "My office. 10 minutes." She gestured toward a corridor leading to the administrative wing. "I can spare 5 minutes." 15 minutes later, they faced each other across Vivian's temporary museum office. Through the glass wall, the exhibition continued in full swing, but the soundproofing created an island of tense quiet. "I'm listening," Vivian said, remaining standing. Thack paced, uncharacteristically uncertain. "I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately, about where it all went wrong, about what I lost." "Thack, please just hear me out." He stopped pacing, facing her directly. "I've made catastrophic mistakes. With us, with Julian, with my career. I've lost everything that mattered. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm leaving Chicago, starting over somewhere new, Seattle maybe, or Austin." He ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "But before I go, I wanted to talk about Julian." Vivian tensed. "Our custody arrangement is legally binding. I'm not contesting it. The opposite, actually." He looked down, seemingly gathering courage. "I think it would be better for Julian if I stepped back completely." This was unexpected. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Legal termination of my parental rights. You'd have sole custody, sole decision-making authority." The words seemed to pain him. He deserves consistency, stability, not a father who disappoints him constantly. Vivian studied him, looking for the strategy behind the suggestion. "This doesn't sound like you, Thack. You've never willingly relinquished control of anything. I'm not the man I was 8 years ago." His laugh was hollow. "That man wouldn't recognize what I've become. And what about Julian? He may struggle with your inconsistency, but he still loves you. That's why I'm doing this, before he's old enough to truly hate me for my failures." Thack moved to the window, looking out at the exhibition. "Look at what you've created, Vivian. Not just the company, but him. He's brilliant, confident, emotionally intelligent. Everything I'm not. Everything I've tried to fake my entire life." For the first time in years, Vivian felt a flicker of genuine sympathy for him. "This isn't necessary. You could simply commit to being more present, more consistent. We both know I'll fail at that again and again." He turned back to her. "There's something else you should know. I'm nearly bankrupt. The Bangkok venture took everything I had left. I can barely afford child support payments now, let alone in 6 months." Understanding dawned. "So this is about money after all. It's about facing reality," he countered. "I have nothing left to offer him except disappointment. At least this way he has a clean break, not years of watching his father's slow collapse." Vivian moved to her desk, pressing the intercom. "Could you ask Julian to join me in my office, please?" Thack straightened in alarm. "What are you doing?" "Giving our son the respect he deserves." She met Thack's gaze steadily. "He's old enough to understand more than you think. If you're going to make a decision this significant, he deserves to be part of the conversation." Moments later, Julian entered, his expression brightening at seeing both parents together, a rare occurrence. "Dad, did you see the adaptive playground? The responsive surfaces use a variation of the microfilament technology Mom developed for the fashion line, but with enhanced durability for play environments." Thack's face transformed in his son's presence, genuine pride breaking through his despair. "I did see it. Your mother told me you contributed to the circuit design." "Just the color algorithm," Julian said modestly. "Dr. Chen helped with the actual implementation." Vivian watched their interaction carefully. Despite everything, there was a natural connection between them, a shared fascination with how things worked, a mutual language of technology and innovation that she recognized but didn't fully share. "Julian," she said gently, "your father and I were discussing something important that affects you. I think you should be included in the conversation." Julian's expression turned serious, suddenly looking older than his 8 years. "Is this about Dad moving away? I heard you talking to Aunt Zora about it." Vivian nodded. "Partly. Your father is considering making some changes to our family arrangement." Thak shot her a warning look, which she ignored. "What kind of changes?" Julian asked, looking between them. Vivian gestured for Thak to explain, her expression making it clear she wouldn't shield him from this responsibility. Thak began, then faltered. Facing his son, his rehearsed explanation evaporated. "I've been thinking it might be better if your mom had full custody. Legally, I mean." Julian processed this with remarkable composure. "Because you're moving away?" "Yes, and because I haven't been the father you deserve." Thak knelt to Julian's eye level. "I've missed science fairs and birthdays. I've cancelled our weekends together. That's not fair to you." "You're busy," Julian said simply. Mom explains that sometimes adults have complicated lives. The child's generosity pierced Vivian's heart. She'd been careful never to poison Julian against his father, always finding age-appropriate ways to explain Thak's absences without excusing them. "Being busy isn't a good enough reason to be absent from your life," Thak admitted, surprising both Vivian and himself with his honesty. "The truth is, I've made mistakes I don't know how to fix." Julian considered this seriously. "Like when I broke Mom's adaptive dress prototype trying to understand the circuitry. She was upset, but she showed me how to analyze what went wrong and learn from it." "Something like that," Thak agreed, his voice rough with emotion. "But much bigger mistakes. Maybe you just need to analyze what went wrong," Julian suggested with a child's perfect logic. "That's what Mom always says. Failure is data." Vivian felt her throat tighten. It was true. That had become one of her core principles, both professionally and personally. Seeing it reflected back through her son's understanding made the moment unexpectedly poignant. Thak looked at Julian, then at Vivian, something shifting in his expression. "You're right, that's exactly what your mother would say." He stood, seeming to come to a decision. "I need to think about this more carefully. Maybe there's another solution." Julian nodded sagely. "Multiple approaches to complex problems. That's what Dr. Chen teaches me." "Julian," Vivian said gently, "would you mind rejoining the exhibition for a few minutes? Ms. Eleanor was looking for you to show you something special about the historical display." Once Julian had left, a weighted silence filled the office. "He's extraordinary," Thak said finally. "Much wiser than I was at his age. Or even now." "Yes, he is." Vivian moved to the window, watching their son navigate the crowd with easy confidence. "Which is why I won't allow you to abandon him no matter how you frame it. It would be cleaner for everyone." "Life isn't clean, Thak. It's messy and complicated and full of imperfect people making their best efforts." She turned to face him. "He needs his father. Not a perfect one, just one who tries, who shows up, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. And if I can't be that father, then keep trying until you can." Her voice softened. "The man I married wouldn't surrender so easily." Something flickered in his eyes, a ghost of his former determination. "I thought you'd be happy to be rid of me completely. This isn't about what makes me happy. It's about what Julian needs." She moved to her desk, retrieving a folder. "That said, I anticipated something like this might eventually happen." She handed him the folder. Inside was a comprehensive proposal, an executive consulting position with Phoenix Novak's Innovation Division based in Chicago, with specific parameters around time commitment, deliverables, and compensation. "What is this?" he asked, scanning the document. "A professional opportunity, not charity. We genuinely need someone with your specific expertise in quantum computing applications for our next-generation fabrics." She regarded him steadily. "It would mean staying in Chicago, maintaining your relationship with Julian and contributing to something meaningful." Thak looked genuinely startled. "You want me to work for you? After everything? For the company, not for me personally. You'd report to the innovation director." She allowed herself a small smile. "Consider it a mutually beneficial arrangement. Julian keeps his father in his life. The company gains valuable expertise. And you get a chance to rebuild. Why would you do this?" His voice held equal parts suspicion and hope. Because 8 years ago I learned the hard way that destruction isn't the opposite of creation. They're part of the same process. She gestured toward the exhibition beyond the glass walls. Everything out there began with something breaking, including me. Thak was silent for a long moment, studying the proposal. I'd have to accept being a small part of something you control completely. You'd have to accept being part of something larger than yourself, she corrected. It's not about control, Thak. It's about contribution. He closed the folder slowly. I'll need time to think about this. Of course, the offer remains open until the end of the month. She glanced at her watch. Now I need to return to my guests, and you should spend some quality time with your son. As Thak left the office, Vivian remained by the window watching as he rejoined the exhibition and approached Julian. She observed their interaction, the way Julian's face lit up, the animated conversation that followed, the shared fascination with the technological displays. Eleanor appeared at her side. That looked intense. It was necessary, Vivian replied. Another transformation in progress. The final piece of your revenge? Forcing him to work under your authority? Vivian shook her head. Not revenge. Resolution. She watched father and son examining a circuit board together, Julian explaining something with enthusiastic hand gestures. 8 years ago I thought I wanted vengeance. Now I realize what I really wanted was restoration, not of what was broken, but of what could be. Very philosophical, Eleanor observed, and professionally convenient. The best solutions usually are both, Vivian smiled. Isn't that what I've built this company on, finding beauty in broken places? They rejoined the exhibition, where Vivian was immediately surrounded by admirers, collaborators, and industry leaders eager to discuss the future of adaptive fashion. Throughout the evening, she noticed Thak and Julian moving through the exhibits together, their connection visibly strengthening with each shared discovery. Near midnight, as the event wound down, Vivian found herself once again before the emerald dress display. The dramatic lighting caught the golden repair lines, making them appear to pulse with inner energy. Zora joined her, champagne in hand. Full circle, she observed. From that night in my loft with scissors and gold thread to all this. She gestured expansively at the exhibition. Not quite a circle, Vivian mused. More like a spiral, coming around to similar points but at different elevations. Deep. Zora clinked her glass against Vivian's water. So, what's next for the great Vivian Novak? You've conquered fashion, revolutionized technology, raised an amazing kid, and even domesticated your ex-husband. Any mountains left to climb? Vivian laughed, a sound of genuine joy. Many. We're just beginning to understand the possibilities of responsive environments, not just clothing but architecture, transportation, medical applications. Always the visionary, Zora said fondly. Remember when your biggest dream was getting your designs into a department store? I remember when my biggest dream was being loved faithfully, Vivian admitted quietly. Life had other plans. Better ones, apparently. Zora nodded toward Julian, who was demonstrating something to an entranced group of industry executives, his confidence remarkable for his age. Different ones, Vivian corrected. Neither better nor worse, just different. Across the gallery, Thak caught her eye briefly. Something passed between them. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. Recognition of the strange, painful journey that had brought them all to this moment. Later that night, after Julian was asleep in his bedroom and the penthouse was quiet, Vivian stood at the same window where the story had begun 8 years earlier. Chicago spread before her, a tapestry of light and shadow, of connections and separations, of endings and beginnings. She touched the fabric of her gown, feeling the responsive fibers adjust subtly to her body temperature. From torn emerald silk to adaptive intelligent textiles, a journey of innovation born from devastation. Full circle, she whispered to herself, echoing Zora's words. But it wasn't. Not really. Circles returned to their starting points, unchanged. This was something else entirely, a transformation so complete that the starting point was unrecognizable from the destination. The woman who had stood at this window 8 years ago, desperately trying to save her marriage, was connected to the woman standing there now only by the golden threads of experience. Painful, beautiful, necessary. She had not just survived betrayal, she had alchemized it. Not just rebuilt, but reimagined. Not just healed, but evolved. In the bedroom down the hall, Julian slept peacefully. His dual heritage, Thak's analytical brilliance and Vivian's creative vision, integrated in ways his parents had never managed. In his DNA and in his developing mind, destruction and creation had already made peace with each other. Perhaps that, Vivian reflected, was the most meaningful transformation of all. If this story touched your heart and you want to keep following inspiring and moving stories, be sure to check out our upcoming videos. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated on new content that can brighten your journey and provide valuable insights. Join us and keep exploring stories that truly matter. I'm sure the next video that pops up on your screen will touch you as well, so click on it now and we'll see you there.